Tunde found the land on a Thursday morning. He wasn't looking for it the way Emeka would have looked, through agents, through listings, through men in air-conditioned offices with laminated portfolios. He found it the way he found most things, by walking. He had been walking the Bodija Ashi corridor for 3 weekends, studying the land the way his father had taught him to study people. Not what they showed you, but what they couldn't hide. The plot was behind a filling station on a quietly busy road. 2 plots actually, adjoining, with a combined size that made Tunde stand still for a full minute, doing mental arithmetic. The land was overgrown. Nobody had touched it in years. But underneath the weeds and the silence, Tunde saw good elevation, natural drainage, proximity to a new government road project that wasn't yet public knowledge. He had heard about the road from a site worker whose cousin worked for the state ministry. He wrote nothing down. He remembered everything. He called Emeka that evening. "I found something," he said. "Come and see it before I tell you what I think it's worth." He wanted Emeka to see it first, to see it with his own eyes. Because numbers, Tunde had learned, could make a man fall in love with a spreadsheet instead of the actual ground beneath his feet. Emeka drove down on Saturday. They stood in the overgrown plot at 8 a.m., dew still on the weeds, the city not yet fully awake around them. Emeka looked at it for a long time. "It's a mess," he said. "Yes," Tunde said. "That road they're planning?" "Don't say it out loud yet," Tunde said quietly. "Not here." Emeka looked at him. "Old habit," Tunde said. "Walls remember conversations." The secret the land carried had nothing to do with the road. It came 3 days later, when Tunde went to trace the ownership at the land's registry. The land belonged, on paper, to a company called Starfield Properties Limited. Tunde had never heard of it, but he wrote down the registration number and gave it to a young woman he knew named Chioma, who worked at the Corporate Affairs Commission and owed him a favor from 2 years ago, when he had quietly covered 3 months of her mother's hospital bills. Chioma called back in 4 hours. "Tunde," she said, "you need to sit down." Starfield Properties Limited had 2 directors. One was a man named Rashid Okafor, a property developer, unremarkable, known in the industry. The other was Emmanuel Adeyemi, Emeka's father-in-law. Tunde sat with that information for a full day before calling Emeka. He thought about what it meant. The land was likely being held, possibly forgotten, possibly deliberately parked, by a man connected to Emeka's family. If they approached the purchase through normal channels, someone in that family would find out. The price would change. The deal might disappear entirely. Or worse, it would create a wound inside Emeka's marriage that no contract could stitch closed. But the land was exceptional. The location, the size, the timing, everything aligned the way things rarely align. Tunde made himself a cup of tea and sat with the discomfort. He called Emeka on a Sunday evening. "I need to tell you something about the land," he said, "and I need you to hear it before you react." Emeka was quiet on the other end. "Your father-in-law part owns it." A long silence. "Tunde, I know. How did you—" "It doesn't matter. What matters is what you want to do." What followed was not a conversation. It was more like 2 men sitting in the dark together, passing a difficult object back and forth, trying to find a way to hold it that didn't cut either of them. Emeka said he needed to think. Tunde said, "Take all the time you need, but think clearly. Don't let the land make the decision, and don't let the family make it either. You make it." Emeka thought for 4 days. He spoke to nobody. Not his wife, not his mother. He walked around the decision the way Tunde walked around land, looking for what it couldn't hide. What he found at the center of it was a question he hadn't expected. When was the last time he had done something difficult in his marriage, not to protect it, but to strengthen it? On the 5th day, he called his wife. Not to confess, not to negotiate. He said, "Ada, I need to talk to your father about something. I want you in the room." Ada was quiet for a moment. "Is it serious?" "It's honest," he said, which I think is better. What happened in that room, what Emmanuel Adeyemi said, what Ada heard, and what it cost Emeka to sit in that chair and speak plainly, that is the next part of this story. And Tunde, who made none of it possible by doing the easy thing, waited by his phone.